What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with a preview for the Sony Open. So back-to-back weeks on Hawaii. This tournament being played on Oahu. It's been played at Waialae Country Club forever. Plenty of course history here to talk about, so let's not waste any more time and let's get into it. All right, if you've never seen this video series before, just going to run through some of the tools that I've created. Everything you see here is available on dfsondemand.com. This is the cheat sheet for the Sony Open. So remember that Waialae is a par 70, which will come in handy later when we talk about the key stats. This is the tournament last year that Justin Thomas shot a 59 in the opening round. Remember that? Then he went wire to wire and he won it by 7 strokes, kind of ran away with the whole thing. So no surprise that he is your odds-on favorite to win this. And actually, when we look at the odds, Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas in a class of their own. Usually not this large of a discrepancy between the tiers of players, but you kind of see it sometimes early in the season. So Spieth and Thomas, odds-on favorites, both kill all the stats that we're going to talk about today. Spieth last week, couldn't really putt, which is uncharacteristic of him at the Tournament of Champions. It's probably only a matter of time before he gets that going. Third place last year to Justin Thomas. So both guys, excellent options. If you're fading the top, which might be a strategy that I take this week, I think Marc Leishman is an excellent option to be able to start your lineups. So he finished 7th last week, and I'd argue he probably has the best course record here. So with a sample size, here's course history. We've got the Sony Open here since 2008. Siwoo Kim has averaged 105 DraftKings points, but that's only one event. Justin Thomas, of course, his 3 starts, he has a win and a 6th place and a missed cut. But really anyone who's played this at least 4 times, Leishman's your man. 82 DraftKings points. I have this done by, or sorted by year here. He's basically top 25 to this every single year, right? He's never missed a cut. He's sprinkled in a handful of top 10s in there, and he's probably playing, I'd say he's playing the best golf of his career, and he played well last week. At 20 to 1, if you can get that number, I'm not a big futures better. But I think 20 to 1 is a number on Leishman that's actually pretty good here. I think it's he's probably closer to 12 or 15 to 1 to win this thing. So good to see him playing well. I think he's a great starting point, or if you just want to get away from those top 2 guys, starting your lineups with Leishman as kind of your headliner, I think is not a bad option. Coming back here and looking at some of our other options here, Brian Harman is another guy I like, par 4 scorer. Here's Kevin Kisner. So we talked about Kisner last week, and I actually played him in a one and done, so I was pretty high on him. 17th place at the Tournament of Champions, which I guess is respectable in that field, but he teed it up at the RSM Classic, which is the only other time he's played this swing season, and finished in a 4th. Now, Kisner's course history here is a little bit deceptive. So if we click Kisner, let's see. Okay, so here he is on the right-hand side. 6 starts, only 52 DraftKings points. We would normally not be too thrilled with that, but on the surface, it looks bad, but let's dig a little deeper and see if we can find Kiz over here. All right, so here he is. So he missed the cut, what's that, 3 straight times, and then 84th. That was probably like an MDF. I'd have to go back and see if he actually played the 3rd round or if that was a missed cut. But essentially the first 3 or 4 times he played this was brutal. Now, he's backed that up recently with a 4th and a 5th in 2016 and 2017. This is another guy who is very likely in the prime of his career, Kevin Kisner, playing well recently and has good recent course history here. So you have to dig a little bit deeper to see his 6 starts and see how well he's done. I don't think he's going to be a secret. I imagine everyone's talking about him. He's popping up on a lot of key stats that I see. So yeah, I'll be invested in him in a lot of lineups, and I suppose a lot of others will be too. Okay, now here's a name that's being thrown around a lot this week, and it's Siwoo Kim at $8,500. I am not remotely as optimistic as the rest of the industry on this guy, and I'll just point out just a few things here. So the reason that I think people are interested is because what you probably saw over here, Siwoo has played this once. It was 2016, and he finished in 4th. To go with that, he's coming off a 10th place at the Tournament of Champions. I assume those are the reasons people will be rostering him. But let's just dig a little deeper into this. I'm a glutton for punishment, right? Like, I usually take on a lot of risk, and I have no problem doing that. But there's something about Siwoo Kim that I can't even roster, right? So here are his game logs going back, nearly 15 months. He won the Players' Championship, and he had a 3rd place at the OHL Classic in November. Outside of that, it's very, very ugly. So going into his Players' Champions win, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 missed cuts in the 9 events before. And then immediately after winning, he missed 4 cuts. And then he basically didn't break the top 60 golfers for 6 weeks. And then he finished in 3rd at a really small, probably poor field at the OHL Classic. I don't know what there is to be excited about here. And I'll tell you when I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong on this one. And I also, I like that Vegas is kind of agreeing with me here. So I don't have the full odds in here. I need to load more odds into this. They weren't available when I first loaded this sheet. But here's what you're seeing. Siwoo Kim and Xander Schauffele are essentially the same price. They're separated by $100. Vegas has Xander Schauffele at 25-1 and Siwoo Kim at 60-1. Other guys who are 60-1, Austin Cook, Patton Kizzire, guys that are $1,000 cheaper. So what that says to me is the DFS industry is much higher on Siwoo Kim than Las Vegas is. I tend to side with Vegas on this. I will have very, very little, if any, Siwoo Kim this week. Okay, now a guy I will have a lot of. Right here at 8,000, Chez Reavie. If you've watched this series before, we've talked a lot about Chez Reavie. This price it's a little insulting, quite honestly. In this field, Chez is much better than the 5, 10, 15, maybe 20th best golfer or highest priced golfer. He's much better than that. Let's take a little bit of a deeper look here. And let me see where I want to go. Let's try, that's a little spoiler for later. Let's try this. So we're going to go back to June of last year. Okay. So basically the last, I don't know, what's that, 6, 7 months. And we're going to just not look at anybody in the field. We're going to look at the entire PGA Tour. Chez Reavie is averaging the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19th most DraftKings points in that span. 74 DraftKings points. To give you an idea, that is more than Jason Day, more than Sergio Garcia, more than Matt Kuchar, more than Charlie Hoffman, more than Hideki Matsuyama. These are all names that in this field would probably be $3,000 more expensive or $2,000 more expensive than Chez Reavie would be. And he's outplayed them in terms of fantasy golf for 7 months, the last 7 months. If we just look in the field, who's in the field this week? 2, 4, what's that? 6, 7. Chez is the 7th highest scoring fantasy golfer since June in this field. And he's priced as the 20th most expensive player. Let's look at his recent form. So he's actually played a lot this swing season, and he's got no worse than a top 25 in 5 starts. He had an 8th place finish here last year. like, check off all the boxes, boys. This is what we want, right? This is exactly what we look for in a golfer. He's $8,000. His form and his history last year would say he should be at least $1,000 more expensive, if not more. If not more. So I'm going to be pretty heavy on Chez Reavie this week, and I'm going to put a pin in that because there's a few other comments I'll make when we get to the key stats here too. And then just looking through this, if we're looking for just kind of course horses, Gary Woodland would fit that mold. So Woodland, a 3rd, a 13th, and a 6th the last 3 years. He's been respectable in the swing season, right? You know, basically 2 top 25s in 4 starts. He's been okay. Hudson Swafford also fits into that course horse type of player where, you know, 3 of the last 4 years he has, you know, no worse than a 13th place, right? Or 3 top 13s in the last 4 years, which is pretty good. Guys that are coming in hot. So the hot hands of this would be Patton Kizzire, right? The last 5 times he's teed it up, he's got a win and 4 top 15s. That's pretty good. So those are your hot hands and your course horses. And then we're going to look at these key metrics that we talked about last week. So if you're new to this, and this is something that we just started last week, and we're going to talk a lot more about, I've been running regression models, meaning I have all the stats for the PGA Tour over the last 8 years, and I have all the game logs for the last 8 years. So I'm trying to find out for each course which stats coming in correlate to DraftKings performance. The 4 most important this week are right here. It's scoring average, which kind of makes sense, right? I have a feeling that's going to pop up a lot this year. At some point, we might have to start excluding it because scoring average is a pretty good prerequisite for success. Strokes gained total, again, no surprise. Here's another one, putts over 10 feet. 2nd week in a row that's popped up. I wonder if that's going to be just a Hawaii swing type thing, or if we're going to see this over and over again. Players who make a lot of longer putts or putts over 10 feet finding success on DraftKings. And then here's the big one, and the one that I think is probably most important this week, and it's par 4 scoring. So par 4 scoring, because it is a par 70, is going to be incredibly important. It's got the 2 extra par 4s. The thing that I was saving for right now is that Chez Reavie is only 3rd behind Spieth and Justin Thomas in par 4 scoring. So after everything that I just walked you through, how great he's been playing, how he's probably underpriced, one of the key stats that matters the most, and the one that is probably most specific to this course, he ranks 3rd, and he's your 20th most expensive golfer. So I've talked myself into quite a bit of him. He will be a one-and-done player in probably all 3 of my lineups for me. But really trying to drive home the point of how much I like him. All right, let's run through these really quick. The scoring average ones I don't think we need to take too much time on. You want guys that are below the line and left of the line. So guys like a Kyle Stanley outperforming his peers. Actually, Jason Duffner is another guy that I like this week. Here's Chez Reavie in his spot doing really well, $8,000 and a scoring average of just a hair over 70. Bill Haas, you know, some of these guys who are more expensive, they jump off the charts because it's not a logarithmic chart, so to speak. But, you know, scoring average should not be a surprise for DraftKings success. Strokes gained total we'll go through pretty quickly as well, just because, again, you know, having a great strokes gained total is probably going to be really good for fantasy. We're looking down for guys who are cheaper and also gaining strokes. So guys like Stuart Sink, right? Tony Finau's right on the line. Tony Berger, Kyle Stanley's now popped up on both of those, which is kind of interesting. Here's the putts over 10 feet chart. So we're looking for guys on the far right and then preferably low. Here's where Duffner popped off for me. So I think Duffner is going to be a pretty significant play for me this week. Sink pops up again. Kevin Na is on here. So these are obviously guys that are going to be sprinkled into my lineups. And then here's what I think the big one is, which is par 4 scoring. Again, we're going left and we're going below the line ideally, right? Like, I mean, these guys, Spieth and Thomas, clearly so far ahead of everyone. Here's the next group of guys. So here's what's interesting. Like, if we're just looking at par 4 scoring, these guys all basically have the same par 4 scoring, which is 3.99, and they are 9,300 to 6,800. There's a $2,500 difference between them. So Sync has now popped up on all of these charts. Stanley has been involved in all of these charts. Reavie, you know I like. Finau, Webb Simpson, these are guys who are leading their peers. So when you're looking for players priced in the low 9,000s, Webb Simpson's there. You know, the 8,500s, it's Finau, Schauffele, Berger. Under 8K, it's these guys down here. Under 7,000, it's these guys down here, right? So that's why I like doing it like this, so that when you're trying to fill out your lineups, this is a nice little visual to find them. Really, really quick, here's Siwoo Kim. In the stat that I think is so important, or not that I think, I'm sorry, let me even correct that. I don't think that stat is important. Looking at the last 8 years, par 4 scoring has correlated to DraftKings success. That's not guessing. That's math, okay? Whether you believe it or not, or think it's noise or whatever is another story. I'm not making it up. I'm not coming off that with the top of my head saying I think this is good. That's what the math says. So, Siwoo Kim, who everyone's touting, one of the worst par 4 scoring averages last year, and $8,500. Like, way off on the wrong side of this chart. So, he might show up this week. I won't be on the train, okay? I won't be on board. That's about it. So there you go. Let me know what you think about these charts, how we can improve them, who you're going to play this week. I will talk to you guys soon. Or I guess you can reach out and tweet me. It's at DFS On Demand, or leave a comment below. Okay, talk to you guys soon. See ya.